There's a version of failure that nobody posts about. It's not losing everything dramatically. It's not some visible collapse that people can point to and say, ah, that's where it went wrong. It's quieter than that. It's waking up at 23 or 25 or 27 and feeling like everyone around you has somehow figured out something that you missed. Like there was a meeting you weren't invited to where everyone got handed their confidence and their clarity and their 5-year plan, and you just didn't show up for it. You scroll through Instagram and someone your age just launched a company. LinkedIn tells you that someone from your university cohort got promoted to something with a long title. A cousin got married, a friend bought a place, and you're sitting there wondering why none of your pieces feel like they're in the right order yet. If any part of that is familiar, I want to talk about it today. Because I think there are some things driving that feeling that don't get named clearly enough, and naming them matters. Every generation has dealt with comparison. It's not new. People have always looked at their neighbors, their siblings, their classmates, and measured themselves against what they saw. But here's what's different for Gen Z. We are the first generation to grow up with a real-time highlight reel of thousands of people playing simultaneously. Previous generations compared themselves to maybe a few dozen people they actually knew. Their social circle, their neighborhood, people whose full lives they had actual context for. They knew what that person's struggles looked like too, not just their wins. We compare ourselves to thousands of people we don't know at all, and we're only ever seeing the curated version, the announcement post, the celebration story, the achievement highlight. Nobody posts the 3 years of invisible work that came before the thing they're celebrating. Nobody posts the rejections, the false starts, the periods of complete directionlessness. So what we're doing, without realizing it, is comparing our entire internal experience, including all the mess and doubt and uncertainty, against other people's external presentation of their best moments. That comparison is structurally designed to make you feel behind, because you're never seeing the full picture, just the part they chose to show. There's an invisible timeline that a lot of us are carrying around. It goes something like this. By 22, you graduate. By 25, you're established in your career. By 27, you're financially stable. By 30, you've got the relationship, maybe the property, a clear sense of direction, and something resembling the life you actually want. And if you hit 24 and you're still figuring out what you want to do, or 26 and you're still renting a room, or 28 and you feel like you've restarted twice, the timeline says you're behind. The timeline says something has gone wrong. But here's the thing nobody asks. Who wrote that timeline? Where did it come from? Most of it is inherited from a previous era, an era where jobs were stable, housing was affordable, career paths were linear, and the economy rewarded people for following a predictable sequence of steps. That world doesn't fully exist anymore. The steps don't lead where they used to. But the timeline stayed. And now we're holding ourselves to a schedule that was designed for a completely different set of conditions, and feeling like failures when we can't meet it. The timeline isn't real. It's just old, and there's a difference. Here's something that developmental psychology has known for decades that somehow doesn't make it into the conversation often enough. Your 20s are neurologically and psychologically one of the most turbulent periods of human development. Your brain's prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for long-term planning, decision-making, and understanding consequences, doesn't fully mature until your mid to late 20s, which means that the decade when society expects you to make major, life-defining choices about your career, your relationships, your identity, and your future is literally the decade your brain is least equipped to make those decisions with full clarity. And on top of that, your 20s are when most people are doing the actual work of figuring out who they are, separate from their parents, separate from the version of themselves that was shaped by school and expectation and other people's ideas of what they should become. That process is supposed to be messy. It's supposed to involve wrong turns. It's supposed to involve changing your mind, starting over, realizing something you believed at 21 doesn't fit who you are at 26. The confusion isn't a sign that something's wrong with you. The confusion is the process. And the people who seem like they have it all figured out at 24 are usually just further along in learning how to present confidence, not actually further along in having it. But I don't want to make this purely about mindset, because some of what's driving the failure feeling isn't psychological. It's structural, and it matters to name it. The generation that came before Gen Z largely operated in a world where the path was predictable. You studied, you got hired, you built stability over time. The economy rewarded consistency and patience. Assets like property were within reach with enough discipline and time. Gen Z entered adulthood in a completely different landscape. Housing costs have risen dramatically faster than wages. Entry-level jobs frequently require experience that you can only get by already having the job. Higher education costs have escalated while the guaranteed return has decreased. The gig economy offers income but not security. And all of this happened while social media was actively showing everyone the people who managed to succeed despite those conditions, creating the impression that success is still easy and accessible, just requiring more hustle. When you're working hard, following the rules, doing what you're supposed to do, and the outcomes don't arrive the way they were promised, the easiest conclusion to draw is that you personally are the problem, that you're not working hard enough, smart enough, strategic enough. But a lot of the time, the problem isn't you. The problem is that the conditions changed and the expectations didn't. And carrying the weight of a broken system as if it's a personal failing will exhaust you long before it helps you. So where does that leave us? I'm not going to tell you that everything is going to work out perfectly, or that you just need to believe in yourself harder, or that the universe has a plan. That kind of advice sounds nice and means almost nothing. What I will say is this: the version of success that most of us are measuring ourselves against, the one we see on feeds, the one encoded in that invisible timeline, is not the only valid version. It's just the loudest one. Progress in your 20s is rarely linear. It rarely looks like the highlight reel version. It usually looks like a long stretch of trying things and adjusting and failing quietly and learning something and trying differently. It looks boring from the outside. It looks like nothing is happening. And then at some point you look back and realize you actually moved a significant distance without ever feeling like you were moving at all. The people who genuinely build things that last, in their careers, in their relationships, in themselves, are almost never the people who had everything figured out at 24. They're the people who stayed curious long enough to figure it out eventually. And one more thing. The fact that you're sitting here watching a video like this, thinking about these questions, trying to understand yourself and your situation better, that's not a sign that you're behind. That's actually the thing that keeps you moving forward. I'm not going to wrap this up by telling you that everything is fine. Some of it genuinely isn't. The structural problems are real. The pressures are real. The exhaustion of constantly feeling like you're not enough is real. But I do want to leave you with this. You are almost certainly further along than you feel. The gap between where you actually are and where you feel like you should be is largely a product of comparison to people whose full story you don't have access to, and a timeline that was designed for a world that no longer fully exists. Your 20s are not a performance. They're a process, and you're allowed to be in the middle of it without having it resolved. If this video gave you something to think about, drop a comment. Tell me where you're at. I genuinely read them. And if it resonated, share it with someone who might need to hear it too. I'll see you in the next one.